Pleased to announce the addition of MJ, cornerback out of Aliquippa, Pennsylvania. Really good player, has great size, great speed, very versatile player. He can play offense, he can play defense. We needed him. We needed to add another athlete to the class, and really pleased to announce MJ joining us. He's got, like I said, he's got really good size. He's all of 6 foot now, getting thicker, getting heavy. Very good basketball player, very good athlete, and pleased to announce him to our class. And at that point, that'll be it. That puts us near our mark of 85 on scholarship. It'll be good. We didn't really oversign this year, which is really critical. Next year, we're going into the year without any attrition, which I do anticipate some attrition. Everybody's getting that in this day and age, which can be helpful, quite honestly, at times. But going into the year, we only have 9 seniors going into next year. So coming off the best season we've had in a long time, next year will be the smallest class I've signed. So there's just no way around that. I do anticipate some attrition, and hopefully we'll get a few scholarships back somewhere along the line. But it's going to be a year where we have great momentum, but we have to be very selective heading into this next class in 20.
Mark, with both MJ and the corners you signed in December, how much do you need those guys to come in and play right away, considering what you lost?
Yeah, it was very important. We know what we lost in the secondary. I feel confident with the guys we have on campus, but we needed depth. We needed numbers. We needed some athletes, and I feel good about the guys we've signed.
About those guys on campus, we haven't heard a ton of them because so many redshirted and senior guys that didn't play last year. Which of those guys kind of stood out?
Yeah, we're going to see. I'm going to hold off on that just to wait. They've got to prove a lot, and we got to keep those guys hungry and motivated and push them. I will say this: I think immediately coming back from the bowl game and getting into our routine with our players here and starting the season, it was obviously something for me. I look at and I see the value. I see the guys that we lost and the experience and the leadership. And so I was concerned about that, and again with myself and our staff being intentional about getting started with that. And our staff has done a great job with our assessments and evaluating our players and the expectations that we have going into the winter and into the spring. And I've been pleased. I see the turn in our program. I see the response from the players that we have on campus, earlier than expected. They know what our expectations are. They know what the coaches demand. That's what what our standards are, and they've elevated those things already in the winter. So that's a good sign.
What are some of the positions for next year's class that, just numbers-wise, you're going to have to add a lot of positions? Yeah,
next year, well, obviously some offensive linemen, in some wideouts. Obviously, we'll need them. I feel. You're always looking to add in every area. You can't go too many years without trying to get somebody at each position. It'll be interesting to see what we can get next year. I anticipate in the neighborhood of 15, which will be low for us, maybe 16, 17, again, depending on attrition, what happens with some guys. But, you always got to reload at offensive line and the skill, with wide receivers and defensive backs. You always got to keep on plugging along there. But anticipate a bit of every spot.
You mentioned MJ's versatility. Is he a guy that if you are thin on receivers, you could try on the other side?
He could play there, and he'd be good. And but we recruited him as a corner.
Mark, obviously you had a big junior day a couple of weeks ago for the Kansas game.
Mm-hmm.
What kind of impact have you seen in that class already from the Citrus Bowl and then especially in state, what you did in Louisville for 2019?
Yeah, I feel very good about where we're at. As our expectations increase, so does the level of the talent of the guys that we're going after, and that doesn't necessarily always mean that it's by how many stars they have. It's by the quality of what we think they could do and how they could help us. So, obviously we want to continue to elevate, the talent and get the right guys here in place. And we feel like we can be more selective now and get the right guys that fit what we're trying to do.
You say the guys on campus that, that the response has been good and they're earlier than expected. What's the response you've gotten since the Citrus Bowl when you've been out recruiting or just out and about? Has it changed any since the season and
Yeah.
since the
Yeah,
Citrus Bowl win?
Without a doubt. I'd say nationally it has without a doubt. I think as you go through the different states and, places where I've been, you can just read between the lines and see the, places where we recruit. And you go out there nationally and I think people always had a great belief in what we were doing and how we were going about it. But you see it now, take it to another level and, and so it's been very, very helpful and very appreciative of the positive response that we've gotten out there.
Why do you feel that way? Was that before you felt like people could see what you were doing and appreciated it? How did you realize that?
How do we measure it now? The increase? Or?
You said before you felt like people appreciated what you were doing, and now it's at a new level.
I just think just overall, again, maybe people I don't know as well, and different coaches and, certain people and have a history with and certain areas, I've been in for a long time and they know me. And even if I don't know somebody personally, they know what I'm all about just from the places I've been. And I think, now it's just, again, to a higher level. People realize and can see the documented success and, they know we're just trying to continue to take it to another level.
Mark, you talked about how difficult it was to change the culture. Do you think the culture has changed, and how difficult is it to maintain that change?
It's always difficult to maintain any amount of success that you've had. If you look at it, there's a reason, and one of the things I am proud about of our players and our coaches is that we've never taken a step back, and nobody else can say that at the Division I level, that there's no team that hasn't gone back in the last 6 years except us. And so that's not easy to do. And we all know how difficult it'll be to take it to another level, but that's our plan. That's what we're trying to do, to take it to another level. So nobody goes backwards. You look at this league, you look at the coaching, you look at the recruiting, and you just take a look around, and it can overwhelm you if you let it. And that's why we don't. That's why we worry about ourselves and what we're doing in there and how we're working in our building and attacking each and every day. Like I mentioned, the first day I was on campus, and that's what we're going to continue to do.
Mark, is your approach to this offseason different because you're now sort of managing prosperity, or you've had success? Do you have to work to keep kind of guys with the chip on their shoulder?
That's not in my plan. That's our plan is to continue to do the same things we've always done and be as demanding as we always are. And so we always keep guys in check. That's one of the reasons why we're pretty thorough and spend a lot of time in our assessments and our evaluations and sit down with players and explain to them in detail what we expect of them and the things that they're doing well in the areas that they need to improve. And it's very interesting because you see kids with it's just human nature to have blind spots. They may think one thing of themselves, but their peers think something else and their coaches think something else. So it's our job to point that out. And again, that's not to pick on them. That's to make sure that they're very aware of blind spots that they have within themselves. And I'm no different. Coaches are no different. We're constantly going to be hard on ourselves and critical and evaluate ourselves and make sure we're doing things the best way we can. So, it's full steam ahead, foot on the gas.
Mark, you mentioned the normal roster attrition in college football these days. Has the transfer portal changed the way you have to approach the offseason, just with not only monitoring guys that might come in, but your own players who
I think you have to be aware of that to some extent. And that's why it's also good, for a change to maybe have one or two scholarships out there and just see, number one, for us, we don't want to take somebody that we feel can't help us take it to another level. And number two, we have a small class next year. And then the third thing would be transfer options. Not that I'm actively out there seeking it, but it's certainly going to happen both ways.
In the off-season training, obviously you want to get bigger, faster, stronger in the weight room, but is there anything that the average Joe might not know that the players have to do to improve their game on the field?
Well, I think just, the area that I just mentioned, I think just mentally and making sure that they're very aware of themselves and the way we see them as coaches, the way their peers see them, and the way they see themselves. And taking a good hard look at everything that they're doing to make sure that they're getting to be the very best that they can. And That's much different than a sign-up sheet on a coach's door saying come in every 5 minutes, or have 10-minute slots and just quickly meet with somebody face-to-face instead of thoroughly digging in to what they're doing. And I think those assessments, are things that we go into we spend a great amount of time on. And it's very important, and it was, again, something that, we started the minute, really the day we got back from the bowl game, and got back to work. I forget what day it was, but certainly we had a couple of days off. But, whenever we got back in the office there that next Monday. And, I think that's important for our players, to be very critical of themselves. And, then we do, we're very specific with individual development plans. So, it's one thing to write something down, but it's another thing to be very thorough and help them. So if they say, well, I need to improve my GPA, well, on our individual development plan, we try to get very detailed. How are you going to do this? I need to gain more weight. Well, it's easy to say that. We try to be very specific on how they're going to do that and make sure they're counting their calories or getting their meals or meeting with our nutritionist and things of that nature. Same thing with our strength and conditioning, technical skills, everything. So we try to be very detailed with that.
Mark, we know one cases you've experimented a little bit with in terms of another position change for them. Do you anticipate some more changes?
I'm sure nothing that jumps out at me right off the top of my head here, Lonnie. But I'm sure that we'll experiment a little bit and get into the off season and see how that goes. We'll see. I would imagine some looks.
You lost a lot of leadership off this team.
Mm-hmm.
This group is going out now. How difficult is it going to be to develop that same type of leadership?
It's always a challenge. But as I said here last year and went over this, nobody was talking about those guys. You know what I mean? I'm not calling out everybody individually. I don't know. I don't read everybody's stuff. But that's what people talk about now. They're like, well, what about this? What about well, none of you talked about it a year ago, right? Am I wrong? I mean, that's, are you surprised? People ask me, are you surprised with the national media prediction? No. There was nothing different a year ago. Now everybody's talking about these 16 guys. A year ago, nobody talked about those 16 guys.
Right.
True?
Right.
So we'll see who the next guys are going to be.
Mark, how much of a say did you have in the Super Bowl video that aired?
Our marketing people do a great job. I really don't have time to get involved with that, but they always have done a nice job and always, honored to be a part of it and just do my little piece. That's just a little voiceover I have to do. So it's pretty easy.
What'd you think of Cash's performance?
I thought he did good. I'd like to see him get some live action out of the locker room sometimes. He could be even a little more authentic.
Mark, today you kept your entire coaching staff intact this offseason. How big is that for kind of?
It's really big. It's quite honestly that doesn't end. I just fielded a call from a head coach in the NFL about 15 minutes ago. So it's not quite over. I hope we keep everybody intact. But I've had much more NFL interest than I've had in the past.
Mark, when you were
Talking about,
Good, I'm sorry.
talking about NFL.
John Clay.
Talking about NFL, since the Senior Bowl, seems like Lonnie Johnson's really taking a big
Yeah.
jump in the way scouts in these mock drafts. Are you
Yeah.
surprised by that at all?
Not surprised. Not surprised. I was very, happy with those guys. I went down to the Senior Bowl, spent a day with those guys, just supporting them and helping them any way I could, just being there for them. But I heard great things when I was down there. The NFL executives and coaches and people that are there really like our players, not just the three that were there at the Senior Bowl, but all of our guys. And they're all helping themselves. They're working extremely hard, and they've done good off the field. They're putting themselves in a position to be looked at, and I'm very proud of those guys. But Lonnie is a guy that I talked about all year to people and scouts and NFL talent that's come through about him and his upside. Him only being here for 2 years, the talent that he has, he's got a high ceiling. He's going to continue to improve, and he's a very, very good player right now, and he has a lot more upside.
What's your role in that process? Do you get calls from NFL teams? How does that go?
Yeah, we do. Vince is our NFL liaison who helps them throughout the year, just giving them the information about our players in the background and spending time with those guys as we're practicing or getting ready to practice. Vince will set them up and does some of that, but we all will field calls on those guys, myself and position coaches, different guys, and a lot of it is up to them. A lot of times it's very general information. They know I'm going to be very positive about our players because that's how I feel, but they have to make sure they fit their system and everything. And one thing that I'm very proud of with our players here that are leaving now, there's no skeletons in the closet. They're all very, very positive people, great people that work exceptionally hard. They've done very good on and off the field, so it's up to them. It's up to the players now, and they're all working and doing the right thing.
Is this NFL draft important to recruiting going forward, to have some guys' names go early?
I don't think it hurts. I definitely don't think it hurts, that's for sure. I would imagine since the NFL cut from the number of rounds, I would assume this would be a record for us as far as the number of guys taken in one draft. So that certainly doesn't hurt.
Mark,
Would
it's
you
not
be in?
every year.
I have to give a little shout out to our the main guys. I think you got to give a lot of credit to is our strength and conditioning coaches. With Corey Edmond and Mark Hill, Deontay Mack, and those guys, they do a really good job. Work extremely hard in that weight room, and really are kind of unsung guys. They never get much attention or anything, but they work around the clock. Those guys are in control of that room. They're the head coach of that room, and we have great leadership down there, and they do a really good job.
It's not often that you say goodbye to arguably the greatest running back in the history of school. But AJ, I thought, took a step forward last year. You had two talented freshmen who showed. When you're out there selling the program or communicating with people, has the image of Kentucky become a power running football? I know you want to be balanced, but
Yeah, I don't think there's any doubt. It is what it is. I mean, when you look at us on film, you're a running back, you have to like what you see, because of the success that we have. I mean, we are, we're physical and we run the ball, and certainly we're searching for that balance that we want.
Mark, what do you say to that prospective recruit who says to you, Coach Stoops, you're a rock star. How do I know that you're going to be here at the University of Kentucky for the next 4 years?
Well, thank you for saying that. I haven't had to answer that. I'm getting the other side of that one. I really don't have to answer that. I'm, quite very, very happy with where I'm at, and the university's been very fair to me, and I appreciate what they've done, and so I'm just worried about grinding out another year, making sure they don't run me off.
We're talking about your strength and conditioning coaches. How much can you use or do you that Josh came back last year with very specific goals for his offseason of what he wanted to accomplish, and then that I'm sure helped lead to what he was able to do during the season?
Well, I think that's very helpful, and it also not just in there, but with those IDPs, those individual development plans that I was talking about with the coaches and Coach White and what he's done. I actually just looked at his from 2 years ago, where he was heading in January, heading into his junior year, and then you look at it now, and it's really helpful. It's amazing what he's done, and it's amazing his own perception of himself, his peers, the perception of his peers and of the coaches. And that's kind of the poster child for that kind of development. And it doesn't happen all the time, but certainly our players can learn from that, and recruits can learn from that, and coaches can learn from that, because we've been very specific with him, and he's been very intentional about improvement on any and all weakness that he has. So he certainly has taken that to heart.
How do you feel about your wide receiver options other than Lynn? Obviously, we know what Lynn can do, but the other guys in terms of...
Oh, it's going to be a big year for those guys. Obviously, the development and what we do this winter and this spring and this summer, it's really important. We need guys like Josh and Isaiah. They have to step up. Ahmad, we've got to get a lot out of those guys. Obviously, we know what Lynn can do. And I expect continued growth from him, and he's working really hard and doing a great job this offseason. So we need some help with those outside receivers for sure.
Mark, have you talked with Gunnar Hoak, and what is his future here? Do you expect him to go through spring practice? Will he be here next year?
Yeah, I do. That's meetings that we've had, and that he's worried about getting better and working hard and having a great winter and having a great spring.
Mark, after talking to Eddie Grant right after the game down at Orlando, he said that you'll be throwing the ball, he'll be throwing the ball down the field a lot more this year and taking some shots because he has to. What's your comment on that?
Well, it's just, again, I think that's well documented. You know, if you hear me speaking here at any time, that we're looking for that balance, we're searching for that balance. We've pushed the ball down the field. We've missed on some things. You know, you look at it, whether it be a drop, an overthrow, a good defensive play, whatever it is, we've had some opportunities. We need to continue to work on those things and get and improve. But we have forced the ball down the field, and we've got to convert on some of those. So we have to work extremely hard to get better in certain areas. And offensively, if you ask any one of our guys, our coaches, our players, or anybody, we're constantly trying to get better. And one way for us to improve is to get better in the pass game and get better vertically. So I don't think that's any secret. You know, we've talked about that quite a bit.
Mark,
Hypothetically, as far as Bowden is concerned, excuse me, do you, what he had to learn how to be a receiver when he got here. What is his development in terms of what stage of development is he in terms of knowing how to be a receiver? You know, when to look back for the ball and those kind of things.
He's getting better every day. I mean, he's an exceptional player. We saw that this past season. You know, probably mention just a couple games in particular. If you don't have him, you probably don't win. So he's a guy that changes the outcome of games and changes the digits on the scoreboard. But he's also a guy that would be first to admit that that's a normal progression to try to get better and to improve in all areas. And you know, he's working very hard in the weight room, but he's also, they're throwing earlier and harder than they've been earlier. You know, they're out there right now on their own, throwing the ball around and trying to improve, and that's a good sign. So he has to step up in a leadership role as well in that receiving core. But no, I'd say he's on a very good progression because Lynn's a bright kid. He's very smart. He could pick up a lot of things. That doesn't mean he's perfect in his technique, but he's very bright. He can play all positions, and not all the guys can do that and put it together. He can do that very easily. So that's good.
How is Landon done with his rehab?
Yeah, Landon's doing really good. I sat down with him yesterday, and he's got another test coming up to check the strength in there, and he's almost full go, fully released. Obviously, there's no reason for us to force anything with him. We have plenty of time, but he's done very well, and you could see the change in him and his upper body strength. That's one positive to that he had the year off, that he could really spend some time in the weight room and get stronger.
Mark, when it comes from the year 1 to year 2 move, when it comes to Terry Wilson, now that he's got so much more experience, what are you hoping to see and expecting to see in him?
Yeah, just growth in all areas. You know, decision making, accuracy, converting on some of the opportunities that we had down the field. We weren't far off on a lot, and we need to improve on some of those, and we will, and he will.
Mark, it seems like since the end of the season, Josh Pastner has used the opportunity to use his story in some places to raise awareness and all those skin cancer. What does it say about him and what
Well,
taking that?
he looked at that right away. That's just who he is. You know, he just has such a strong faith, and you know, it's well documented. My feelings for him and all of our players and coaches, the respect that we all have for Josh, and I'm sure you all do as well. It's hard to be around him and not respect him and the way he lives and the way he goes about his business. So it does not surprise me. He wanted that from the beginning. If this happened to him, as I mentioned before, he's very matter of fact. He's going to believe that he's going to get better and improve and beat this, and he's going to do what the doctors and everybody tell him to do, and then he's also going to try to help people. So once again, it's really no surprise, and just appreciate him.
Mark, how much do you put on your current group of guys to help the signees coming in? if I'm not mistaken, I think it was Casher on the bowl game last year, says, of course they respect what the coaches say to them and helping them grow, but there's something different when your own teammate is criticizing you as well. What's going to be their role to get those guys up to speed?
Well, without a doubt, that you've heard me say it, and it's no different this year. When you become player-led, you take another jump. And so coaches are always going to lead and talk and preach and coach and all those things. But when that comes from within, you take another step, you grow. And, obviously, that's earned, not given. And the players that have earned that, like Cash, will be immediate leaders, but we need others to emerge.
Mark, what's the status of Zaire Hughes?
He's still removed at this point from the football team until he gets his legal matters cleared up.
Okay, this is kind of a little bit off the subject, but I don't know if you got to watch much of the Super Bowl. But as a defensive guy, a guy with a defensive background,
It's a great game.
that's part of what I'm saying. But I mean, what I was going to ask was about Belichick and what he's been able to do in an era of a cap and parity and all that, especially as a defensive coach. I mean, how do you look at that?
Well, you have to look at what he's done and have to have great respect for him. The consistency that he's had, like you said, with all the different moving parts, and to be able to win it many different ways. And people question his team. He comes out and wins and proves people wrong all the time. I mean, as a coach, you're constantly trying to learn and evolve and get better and constantly looking at different ways. But what they've done, it's you got to have great respect for him and for their team, their organization. But if I say that I enjoyed that game, they're going to say, "See, I told you Stoops didn't want to score points." But I do respect the way both teams play defense.
Look at what G. Settlement did in that game.
Yeah.
Would you take that and use as an example as to what can be done, knowing where
Sure.
this kid comes from,
Sure,
how
but
he got to where he is right now, and all that?
You do, and also really, you also have to respect the winner of that game too, because they're going to win by any means necessary, right? And ultimately, nobody's going to criticize them for not scoring enough points. They're Super Bowl champs, and that's all that you're worried about is the bottom line. And that takes a team to do that, an organization and a team that buys in, and they're all happy for each other. I can promise you that, so, and that's, what we try to do sometimes, and that's what I talk about and preach. I don't really care how we win, just win. If you have to outscore somebody, so be it. If it's a low scoring game, you don't ever, look at that and apologize for winning a game, however means necessary. So, I think it's real important. There's a lot of lessons, but you look at a player, Edelman, and I believe he was a walk-on. I know he's a quarterback, an undrafted free agent, and becomes Super Bowl MVP. It's, doesn't surprise me that he was the MVP now after he proves himself for all those years. But you look at the successful players we've had from walk-ons, and once again, Lonnie, last time we were in a press conference, you said, "That's the first time this year." It's 2 in a row.
I got a call before you come in here.
Lonnie, nobody wants to hear excuses.
Okay.
All right, folks, thank you very much. Oh, we'll talk to our coach.
I was finishing my thought just about the walk-ons and the successful ones we've had. Most recently with David Bouvier and of course Charles and many others, but very, very good players. So, all right, anything else?